Good morning. So, I've been thinking a lot about collective trauma, and last night at bedtime, I was tapped in a little bit too much to the collective and really picking up a lot of thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And what was coming through last night is there is just a lot of despair on the planet. A lot of people are looking for a way out. They're just tired of being here. They're tired of putting up with all of the chaos and destruction and undoing of all of these systems on the planet. And there's just a lot of people in a lot of pain. And we all have this ability to tap into the collective, to hear and feel what they feel, because we're all connected. All of us. No matter what you believe, we're all connected. When we heal one, we heal all. When one of us hurts, it ripples out. Our thoughts create our reality. And it took me a while. I had to unplug from the collective a few times because I was not enjoying all the monkey mind and all feeling and hearing all of these people who are just ready to go. They've just given up hope. Because that's not my reality. I haven't given up hope. But it did bring some other thoughts to mind about collective trauma, about our ancestors, about the wars we've been through, about these systems that we've been in, how we've been programmed for generations, and how our ancestors, and especially our parents, did the best they could with what they had. Okay? So at the Ancestral Souls Wisdom School, one of the things that we are going to be talking about in different classes in my Ancestral Cafe membership is collective trauma, personal trauma, ancestral trauma, because it affects us all and it affects us down through the generations. Thomas Hübl, who studies collective trauma, and he's got a book out called Healing Collective Trauma, has a great quote, and it goes like this, quote, "No matter how private or personal, trauma cannot belong solely to a family or even to that family's intricate ancestral tree. The consequences of trauma seep across communities, regions, lands, and nations." End quote. Now, what does this mean? Well, some of you may have experienced this, especially if you've traveled to visit your ancestral homelands, or if you've just traveled anywhere outside of the US or outside of Europe, you might have picked up some of this. Because we are all so connected, whatever trauma happens in one place, the energy of that does ripple out. There is an effect across the world. You can even be impacted by the traumas of people you didn't even know. And I'll give you an example. So my late Dutch in-laws were both living in Rotterdam during World War II. They survived the bombing of Rotterdam. And they survived a lot of other things, but they still carry quite a lot of trauma that was just unprocessed. And my late mother-in-law especially has shown up in my life multiple times, and she's shown up in the last 6 months, 9 months, a year, a few times, with a lot of messages. Okay, she's still carrying a lot of weight. She still is worried about the weight that she dumped on others. And why is this important? Well, because she's reaching out. Okay, she's reaching out to me and asking me for help. Now, when someone does that, someone's ancestor or your own ancestor does that, you always have the choice to say, yes, I will sit with you in this energy and listen to you and maybe do a healing with you, or no, you're not allowed in my space. We all have that choice. And there are times when I've had to tell her, no, you're not allowed in. I can't deal with this right now. You need to go find somebody else. So why does she come to me? Well, one reason is because I have a connection to Europe. I have a connection to the war. I was embedded in the Dutch culture and life for many years. So there is a connection there. And again, everything is connected. I'm also a spiritual healer, intuitive healer, medium, empath, whatever label you want to put on me today. This is what I do. And I help people, whether they're living or they've already passed on. And the things that she suffered and so many others suffered and didn't have time to process, because after the war, whether you lived in Europe or you lived in the US and you're looking at your own veterans that returned or the family members that died and what happened after the war, the propaganda and the programming everywhere was you need to pick up and start over. You need to rebuild, whatever that means for you. In Europe, it meant starting to rebuild the towns and cities where you lived, which were bombed or destroyed or whatever happened to them during the war. In the US, it was a lot of, okay, now you can go on the GI Bill if you want. You can get married. We invite you to find a new job. We want you to start a family. We want you to buy a house and live the American dream. If you're a displaced person in Europe, it's now you're going to start over completely. And where are you going to do that? So in any of those situations, or even in Asia, where the situation was very similar, things are bombed, people have to start over, there's a tremendous amount of death. How do you clean all of it up? Nobody had time to process, and there really weren't the tools to process. So it got buried. People moved on. They shut up. They kept secrets. They told lies. They did whatever they had to do to protect themselves, to be able to create whatever had to come next, to start a family, to move forward. But all of this trickles down to their children, their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren, and so forth. And it affects everybody around us. So when we step up and are willing, brave enough, courageous enough, whatever you want to label this, to look at what's coming up for us, our traumas, to be willing to look at the lives of our ancestors beyond names, dates, and places. What did they experience? And trauma doesn't always mean war. It can mean they had to move to a new place. Immigration causes trauma. At 5 years old, my parents moved me out of Chicago down to Southwest Missouri. That created a tremendous amount of trauma for me, which affected me. And I think on some level, it still affects me as I continue to peel back the layers of this onion as I heal. Trauma isn't always just a big thing. It's how our body reacts basically once something big has happened that we can't deal with. And then those things get frozen inside of us. But then we meet somebody or we're in a place that triggers us or mirrors what we need to look at. And then it's a choice. Do we do it? Do we heal it? Do we sit with the emotions? Do we let it go? Or do we continue to push it down and just let it fester? When it festers, it can create more anger and negativity and lower vibration and illness and disease and death. Do we want that? Well, it's all choice. We've all gone through suffering. We've all chosen the suffering on some level, conscious or unconscious, because it serves a purpose for us at the time. And maybe it still is a little bit of protection because we're not quite ready to look at that and heal. So no matter where in the world you live, we're all connected. No matter if you're studying your Lithuanian or Italian ancestors, whether they fought in World War I or World War II or any other war in time, or they immigrated to America, or whatever your story is, we're all connected. And when we start to each of us do our individual work, it ripples out and affects everybody. So the question is, are you ready to take that next step today and start to look more deeply at your family and military history and how it has affected you? Because we are the only ones we can change. We are the only ones we can heal. But when we do, as I said, it ripples out to the collective. If you're interested in learning more, I do have 3 new webinars coming up in the next 2 weeks. There's Feel the Power, Introduction to Ancestral Lineage Healing, and Unlock the Past. And in each of these, and the links are in my bio for you to go and watch a short video and learn more about these, but I'm going to talk about some of this, talk about some of the tools that we can use to start to dip our toes into this, and just give you some things to sit with. If you're ready to take it a little bit deeper, I do have a course that is now on my website called Exploring Family Patterns and Stories. And this is kind of a foundational course. The link for that is also in my bio. You can go watch a short video, read a bit more about what the course contains. And it invites you to set the foundation of looking more deeply at your past. This is, again, a foundational course. It's not required for you to participate in my Ancestral Cafe membership or any of the other courses that I'm developing. But if you're brand new to this, it is something I would invite you to check out because we are looking at our research, genealogy or military, and our lives in a completely different way. I hope you all have a beautiful day. If you have had any of these experiences with your ancestors or other people's ancestors, or even been in a place where you're hearing and channeling and very aware of what took place there, I'd love to hear your stories. So please share in the comments wherever you're watching this video. And you can always visit ancestralsoulswisdomschool.com to learn more about what's happening. Subscribe to my newsletter list. Subscribe to my YouTube if you are watching this there. And I'd love to hear about your journey.